Love is our natural state. Big words, and how do we operationalize that is the problem. We all know the concept, and I'm sure we've all experienced this at some points. When we're talking about spiritual depth and meditation and open heartedness and love, we're talking about spiritual practice. And one of the things about spiritual practice is that we tend to not be stable in our realization. So some of the time we will have a real felt sense of love that's not connected to anything. It's that inherent basic goodness or that stillness, the caring, the open heartedness. And then something comes along and breaks that up. And then we experience something else for a while and then we come back. So that's what this series of weeks is about, is how to come back. This is from Michael Singer's book, Living Untethered, where he's talking about samskaras and how samskaras are stored in our heart. These are anything that we couldn't process. So it might be stored trauma, stored traumatic experiences, memories, something that landed on a core deficiency belief. We have these experiences of not being cared about or loved or included. And then we develop beliefs about ourselves based on that. But the thing I wanted to bring forward here is that when something stimulates our past samskaras, we think and feel the way we used to in that environment and with those people. So I think we can all relate to going back to a childhood environment and having a hard time staying stable in our adult self. Sometimes that can be with siblings or other people from our childhood. So we feel at home. It feels like us because it's familiar. And the point he keeps making over and over is that none of the versions of who we are who we are. These are things that we've experienced, and to keep coming back to the one who's experiencing the thoughts, the circumstances, the opening and closing of the heart, the samskaras, that we're coming always back into that witnessing. A few weeks ago, the focus was witness, relax, and release. We need to be able to do that in order to be free. When samskaras are stored in the heart and then something lands on them. So it could be that, we have a samskara around being bullied, and then we see a look on someone's face of contempt or aggression, and that immediately we're sensitized to that. These are the things that cause the ups and downs in the heart, that cause our heart to close a lot of the time. But when we don't actually feel what's here, they get stored. So if we feel resentment towards somebody, it's not going to just go away. It'll sink below the surface. But eventually that holding back and not being honest and authentic will diminish or destroy the relationship we have with that person. If we want to experience love, we have to stop adding more resentments. So that's part one, is stop making it worse. Part two is then working on removing what it is that's blocking the flow. So working with our old samskaras. Let's sit back here for a moment. So if you were looking at a beautiful sunset, noticing how we do that. We just experience it. We just let it in. Our eyes take it in. Our breathing probably gets more continuous and smooth. Our body relaxes. Sometimes we might have something else going on in our mind that's interfering with our enjoyment. But if our mind is relatively stable, we just let it in. So the point he's making in this part of the book is when thoughts about what went wrong in the past or what might go wrong in the future are predominating in us, ruminating or catastrophic thinking, then we create emotions that aren't in tune with reality. If you think about, bring to mind a circumstance of an interaction you had with somebody, or maybe it was online or in person or on the phone, whatever it was, that raised some kind of a response in you. And it might be, you met somebody and they have lovely eyes and you tuned into them. And it's like, meanwhile, you know nothing about the person, but there might be some kind of resonance there, some kind of similarity or with a past experience. And you kind of sink into that and feel safe with them. That actually has more to do with your past and not much to do with the present, because in the present, you don't actually know much about them. And it usually more often works in the negative way. We hear something, we see something, and it flashes us back to something that was difficult in the past. And then it prevents us from staying here. So if your heart's expressions are based on current reality, you'll have a sharper neuroception. You'll be able to see what's here. We move back all the time. When we get engaged with things, we're mindful about what the process is, and then we're staying engaged with that. We have this continuum of energy and feeling. And when we think somebody might leave or when they leave, we feel the pain and fear of the original samskara. So I wanted to bring that one, really highlight that, because when we've been hurt by people throughout our history, which is the case for everybody has been hurt by other people to some extent, then we have that samskara around being left or being hurt. So when we have that happen to us again, or when we think it might happen again, we feel the pain that we didn't finish feeling at the time. So this is part of why samskaras have the power to really disrupt our awareness in the present moment. So if our primitive survival strategies were fight, for instance, we might go into a fight response, we might go into freeze or flight, and we often just dig ourselves a deeper hole because we're being unskillful. And the reason we're being unskillful is because our fight, flight, freeze mechanisms of survival have been activated. The other point I wanted to highlight on here is that when the blockages that are restricting the energy are gone, so if we resolve that samskara, and it no longer is something that we believe, maybe it's not completely resolved. I don't know if they're ever completely gone, but gone enough or settled enough that they don't grab us and throw us off. Then we feel love all the time because there's nothing else, nothing to interfere with it. We feel whole, we feel complete, and we have a natural loving energy that we have towards ourselves and also towards other people. And that's what we really experience. So we experience that pure love that we would have experienced all throughout our whole life if it hadn't been blocked. And that's why it's a good idea to work with these energies. So when our samskaras are thin enough, then the flow of shakti or chi, this flowing energy in our system, is strong enough to pierce the middle of the heart chakra. So when we're blocked in the lower part of the heart, we have all of these negative emotions, jealousy, insecurity. When we have the flow is up, we can come up into the heart. And so we have this horizontal flow. So we have enough room in the heart, or there's enough ways that our energy can get around our samskaras. If we think about boulders blocking a stream, then there's some energy that comes out and we experience that as human love. And if we can thin out the samskaras enough that they're not in the way, then we come up into the higher part of the heart chakra. And that creates this permanent experience of love, strength, well-being that's not dependent on other people or circumstances. It's our natural state that we're then able to tune into. I know some of you heard me talk about this quote: in any moment we can enjoy what there is to enjoy or suffer what there is to suffer, from my meditation teacher, Swami Veda. Michael Singer, the way he approaches this is, we want what we think that thing will give us. So we want happiness or joy. So whether it's a group of friends or, that nice cabin on the lake in the forest, a new car, relationship, whatever that might be. We don't want the thing. What we want is the feeling that might give us. So this, in every moment, this is where we're going to stop now and do our inquiry. We can either be naturally enjoying what is, or letting go of what's keeping us from enjoying what is. Let's go into that. Get yourself settled for, 7 or 8 minutes. If you were to say, tune into your body, tune into your breath, and let your attention turns toward this inquiry. If you were to say to yourself, I'm enjoying this moment, and notice your response. This is an inquiry, there's no right or wrong. I'm really enjoying this moment. So, this is a reverse inquiry in which we say something we're not absolutely sure is true because we want our unconscious, we're trying to elicit the argument from our unconscious. I'm 100% enjoying this moment. And see what your response is. Sometimes the response is physical. We might feel tightening or heaviness. We might release a tightening or a heaviness and go, I am actually enjoying this moment. You take a deep breath and kind of settle into that. And notice that this is not a static experience. As we sit with this for a little bit, things might come, other things are going to settle. What is it that would make this moment more enjoyable? So if you were to think to yourself, well, yeah, it's okay. This moment's okay. But I'd really enjoy it if I wasn't so tired, if I knew I was going to meet a friend later, what are the ifs? What are the ifs? What are the buts? What are the arguments? And then work with letting go of that. Could I enjoy this moment and the connection that I feel right now with myself, with the other people here, even though I might be lonely later? Could I enjoy this moment for what it is? We might focus on the feeling in the heart area, noticing the changes as we move from being a little blocked or feeling like there's something missing to cultivating an experience of, no, I could enjoy this just as it is. Notice how the sensations and feelings change. Witnessing thoughts as they come and go. You might also bring forward memories of times when you felt like you really were open hearted. What was going on there? Kind of bring that back to life in your mind. Or the opposite. I'd love to be open hearted with those drivers on the road, but they make me nuts. I get really angry. I know I'm supposed to just sit back and relax, enjoy the scenery, but I don't. I get frustrated. They shouldn't be so slow. So notice what it is that's here. We're not trying to be unrealistic or put pressure on ourselves. There's no shame about this. It's just the way our system works based on our experience. And could you let go of what it is that's preventing the enjoyment? There's no right or wrong here, either in ourselves or in someone else. We might bring to mind a situation where we're really wanting a deep connection with somebody and they're just not there for it. Either they're distracted or they're in some kind of a fight response themselves or whatever it might be. And how could we work with letting go of what we want it to be? And is there anything here that we could still enjoy? Our attention to what there is rather than what's missing. This is an inquiry that we could do many, many times. Let's come back from it now, kind of take a step back. Notice your whole experience during the inquiry and bring your attention into your heart center for a moment and feel that willingness that you have to work with what's here, to be free from what's holding you back from love and experiencing the joy of the moment, and your willingness to cultivate this, to inquire into it, to let go of what's not necessary or not working, to give yourself the credit, the appreciation. I'm here, I'm doing this practice. Let yourself feel that in your heart. And then when you're finished, open your eyes.